Winter is coming, but could it pick up the pace a little bit? Game of Thrones is back. Season 7, Episode 1, Dragonstone has aired. This is not going to be spoiler-free. I'm going to get into spoilers pretty much right off the bat, which you kind of have to if you're going to talk Game of Thrones. I learned that the hard way. So if you're looking for a general overview, you're not really going to get it before I start getting into spoilers. So just watch the show and come back. So it was okay. I guess my thing is there's nothing wrong with this. Well, there's something I think is wrong. There's nothing bad in it. No one part, no one character, no one thing that is shown was something that was bad, something that I don't like. But aside from the opening scene with Arya and Walder Frey and all that, it was dull. It was all set up. And I get that all the stuff that they were doing was stuff that needed to be addressed in terms of reestablishing where everybody is, what's their goal, what's standing in their way, but the show as a whole does this sometimes. They like load all the similar material into a single episode, and we get like the exposition episode, the moving the pieces around the chessboard episode, or the action episode. And sometimes when it's they're culminating all the high-end stuff together or the really intense stuff, it works a bit better. But when they lump together similar stuff that's all kind of slow, and like I said, this is not the first episode they've ever done it, it's kind of annoying. I think it bugs me a little bit more this time than it would otherwise, because there's only 7 episodes this season. So to get an episode that feels like nothing but setup kind of bugs me. Again, that said, nuts and bolts, it's all fine. There's even some stuff that I really like. It opened great, especially because the scene started with Walder Frey, and all these people. I'm like, are we getting a flashback to the Red Wedding, like from a different angle? And then he's toasting these people. I'm like, and for a minute, I still thought it was a flashback, like him toasting and congratulating his people who had just done the Red Wedding, and then realizing, no, this is not a flashback. Oh, well, I figured he was poisoning all of them right away, but I still thought we were in a flashback for a little while until I caught her. Oh, wait a minute. And then she pulls the face off and is like, yes. And I like when that gets brought up with Cersei and Jaime talking about it, that they don't know it's her, which was a nice reminder. I think I had known on some level in my head that, kind of nobody knows Arya is alive or what she's up to, but it was just nice to get a reminder, like concretely, that anything she does, they don't know what just happened. As far as they're concerned, the phrase just all drop dead, and that's kind of cool when I kind of put my head on to remember not every character knows what I know. So that was kind of a cool thing to think about. The other scene I think that I liked the most, in addition to that one, and there's one other that was really good, and I'll come back to that, but Euron, his scene in front of Cersei, sold me on his character much better than his appearances last season did. Last season when he showed up, I'm like, what's the point of this guy? Why are we doing this? I get him much better as a character just based on this one scene and his interaction with Cersei, with Jaime, and his reactions to how she and Cersei plays him so smart. But his reactions to all this, I'm like, I get this guy's deal now. And more to the point, he's fun. I always like fun. Fun characters are great. So the other scene that I mentioned that I do really particularly like is Sansa and Jon talking after the sort of the council thing where Jon decides he's going to pardon these families that had betrayed the Starks, with Sansa questioning him right there in front of everybody. And they have this scene that I think plays really well because it shows the validity of both sides, because Jon makes a very good case in terms of the rightness of what he's doing, but Sansa, who was at King's Landing, who saw the inner workings of the politics and who knows how the game is played, whereas Jon just doesn't. I mean, Jon was up at the wall, where backstabbing was very upfront because it was literal. He's not used to the weird political infighting sort of thing, and Sansa is, and she knows that. And there was something about that moment when she said to him, look, I miss Father. I miss Rob. They were wonderful men, but you have to be smarter because what they did got them killed. And that's just, I'm hoping that what this is building towards is not the two of them butting heads, but the two of them putting their heads together. What I want to see is Jon recognizing the value of what she's saying and giving her the opportunity to use all the horrible stuff she was put through to the best possible end. That is my hope for the two of them going forward. And I mean, the rest was just a bunch of little scenes, I get all of which in and of themselves, taken completely independently, were fine or even good. It's just they added up to a very dull tone for this first episode. Oh, the other thing that I like, not so much like it was a big thing in this episode, but I like as far as a setup, because I had to think about it to realize what a big deal it was Sam's realization that basically all the dragon glass is at Dragonstone. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. But then, they actually show the map. It's like, oh, wait, there's something between Jon, who needs the dragon glass, and where all the dragon glass is, and it's King's Landing. It's Cersei. Ah, crap. And sort of realizing what a big problem that's gonna be. That, that was just sort of a cool thing to think about. And like pretty much everything that's getting set up is all stuff that I like. So I do think this sets up a potentially very good season, and even a very good next episode. But it's also the kind of episode that if I were rewatching the season, I would probably skip. Not because it's bad, just because it's like I want to get to the stuff. And I feel like this is stalling for me. And, there have been slower, more, paced episodes like this that I've enjoyed earlier in the show, before it was really hitting the culmination of everything. And that's where we are now. So these kinds of slowdowns weigh on me a lot more than they did or would have in previous seasons. Although I'm pretty sure I was pointing out when this kind of let's lump all the boring stuff into one episode thing would happen. But I think it's just weighing on me more this time than it would normally. But again, still good. It's a solid start in terms of what it's setting up. It just didn't grab me. But it does not make me worried about the show, and it doesn't make me worried about the season. I'm just hoping that now that all the stuff is out of the way, we can hit the ground running on the next one. So those are my thoughts on the first episode of the new season of Game of Thrones. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. I am also one half of the Punch Like a Girl podcast, also available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.